Is it just what we kind of covered on the board real quick?
Yeah, so that,
Angie?
that what we covered, and then what is that a map of?
This one here.
Yeah.
Okay.
What does that tell you?
Just the
The
areas.
blocks.
Yeah, and where it's gonna block it.
Okay, so it tells you what sensory nerve innervates that area.
Okay.
So it's kind of like the spinal vermitome map. That I think it's on one of your slides in
Oh, the body and I
the
have, like,
body,
the-
and it allows you to know where the nerve is picking up information. So from which teeth is pain going to be perceived by branches of the infraorbital nerve.
What did you call it before? The spinal what?
Spinal dermatome map. But
Oh,
if that doesn't
dermatome
make
map.
it easier for you, then let's just talk about this.
Yeah, I
So
don't think you
it's
guys need to
really,
know that.
yeah, it's just really telling you, so Maria explained it well. Do you want to explain it? So like the nasopalatine.
You're up.
For example, like if she asked us to what this means, it would just say that like I forgot how to explain it.
Yeah.
This is the nasopalatine nerve where it innervates. So if we want to block this area, what would the nerve be and what would it be blocking? So it would be blocking like the interior third of the palatine, of the hard palate. So that'd be like a question. Or for example, like if you want to block the nerve or numb the
What is the IA?
IA,
Yeah.
inferior alveolar.
Okay.
So then like what would it be blocking? It would be blocking like these teeth right here and also like the mucosa or the bottom of the lip, for example.
Which explains why they always do a long buckle. Now I know what it is.
Yeah, or like if you want to block the
What's a long
the
buckle?
molars, it would be the PSA for maxillary, and that's the posterior superior alveolar nerve. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
it goes.
And I
with
wouldn't,
I get it.
I wouldn't take anything off of that, so everything is labeled. I really just want you to know that that's a map that you can use, and you're hopefully you'll get a lot of experience
Yeah.
using it, but I want you to know that there are nerves behind there, and we didn't get a lot of time to go back and forth between where the injection site is, where the nerve is, and this map.
Yeah.
And if I would do it again, I would spend more time doing
It
that.
goes with the trigeminal nerves. Like
Yes.
if you
Yeah.
use those two
Yes.
together.
Yes, and so if you have this figure and that figure right below, then you could probably draw you could write a sentence or two explaining what that's for.
So we do need to study this though, and like.
What is
You
that?
need to know what it's used for, but you don't need to memorize
Like all
anything,
the
you
different-
just need to maybe look back and forth between
Oh.
that and this figure.
Okay.
Oh, what about this?
And know what
I don't know,
nerve
but
is
Chapter 9.
Yeah, so you would look and say, okay,
Too much information.
IA. Yeah, yeah.
I think it's just V2, V3. Ophthalmic is the frontal, lacrimal, and then the right here.
How about
Like
this?
about that, Lisa?
Yeah, do we have to know this? What Gloria posted yesterday?
What was
Oh,
that?
the stuff with the anesthesia and
That's the same thing as that.
yeah.
Oh, it's
Okay.
just the same thing as that.
So
Okay.
focus on this.
But only know 4 of the branches
4 branches with their
from the
targets.
trigeminal.
Okay,
nice.
so you feeling confident? I hope or clear.
Or just know that we're gonna be up super late tonight.
Okay.
And then what about any of this like
I'm
lymphatic
not happy
stuff?
that we have to know every line though, now I have to study more.
So, what kind of infections can you have?
Can you be more specific?
Viral.
Like in the
Bacterial, viral, what else? Are there
Oh.
other pathogens that might get in your
Yeah.
fungal?
Protozoa.
Yeah, okay, and worms.
And worms.
Yeah, so those are my examples. And so what are the defenses that you have against?
There's 7 non-specific lines of defense.
Right?
Ooh.
And what's the difference between a specific defense versus a non-specific defense?
Does it mean of the antigen?
That it's recognizing an antigen that's specific to that pathogen. And I like to think of it as a shape, so a circle or a square or whatever, it's the shape. And with the specific recognition, there's also memory, and we didn't talk about that, but you probably remember that from A&P. And what about non-specific? Those 7 things.
Inflammation,
Yeah,
phagocyte,
do you guys mind listing those off?
fever,
So inflammation,
interferons,
Natural killers?
NK
is that's in
cells,
the
It's in the
phagocytosis.
Okay, I'll just look at
So
that.
it's physical barriers, phagocytes, immunological surveillance, interferon, complement system, inflammatory response, and fever.
Okay, and we just need to know those.
Yeah, so I didn't talk very much about those. I did talk about inflammation, okay, and the inflammatory response, which you guys are gonna see. And so I would know those 4 signs. So I
The
might,
signs
of inflammation.
so it's like
What,
fever,
redness?
No,
Redness,
it's
swelling.
not fever.
Is that
It is
Fever
not
is
fever.
Redness,
swelling,
pain.
or
pain,
heat?
and heat.
Heat, yeah. So fever is a systemic thing, inflammation is localized. It could be systemic,
What would
but
be
it's
that
not.
question again that you would word that? The 4 what?
What are the
Signs and
4
symptoms.
signs of inflammation?
Oh, 4 signs of
Which are
inflammation.
redness, swelling, heat, and
Okay.
pain.
And we talked a bit about, this is back in cardiovascular, about hemostasis. Remember that? So there are 3 steps when you wanna stop bleeding.
Pressure.
No,
First
there's like
step,
fibrin
what
is the
happens
last
first
one.
if you break a blood vessel?
Clot.
Not first.
Lots of red
Rush.
I don't
Clot.
Oh,
Blood. So
Second thing, you have cells floating around in your bloodstream. What are these? They're platelets aggregate. And then the last thing is to form a fibrin clot.
Oh, right.
platelet congregation second.
Vasoconstriction.
Vasoconstriction. And then
And blood clot.
platelets.
Platelet
And then the
aggregation.
fibrin formation.
The clot formation.
And we talked a little bit about pressure and flow and resistance. And Megan talked about pressure preventing flow,
Thank
that
you.
in order for you to have blood flow, you have to have a pressure gradient. And that's why you can put pressure on something and have the flow stop.
So what would you ask about that?
And
Would
sit
you
on
just,
Facebook.
would you want this little equation that you wrote on the board, the P1?
I will probably ask a more general question.
Okay.
What was the question, Megan? I'm sorry.
Just what would she ask about the blood flow and the pressure and all that, what she just said? More general. She would want-
Why does applying pressure to a bleeding wound stop the
Because
bleeding?
of the vasoconstriction, is that what it is, or no?
That's what my
It
guess.
stops
would-
the flow too.
It's a pressure greater, you're putting a pressure greater than the pressure pushing the blood out, okay? And that's the same thing that happens at capillaries.
Yes, that's
But I don't, if we go in deep in this stuff, you'll start to feel like, so let's not.
Is
Okay. How is a lymphatic vessel different from a blood vessel, and how is it similar?
They both carry fluids, which is
Good.
similar.
Yeah,
They go, or
they
heart.
flow
One
in
go
the
to the heart,
same
one
way.
leaves the heart.
okay.
lymphatic and.
So the similarities between lymph and blood vessels is what you guys are talking about?
Similarities
Blood vessels.
and differences.
What are different?
What's
So
the
s-
difference?
What they carry.
Okay, what they carry, what else?
Functions.
Okay, okay,
One has lymph nodes and the other doesn't.
okay,
One has a lot more water.
okay.
Well, that would be the second sign.
Okay, what else? Are lymph nodes, are lymph vessels connected? Like, is it a closed loop or an open loop? Like, it's actually, it might seem closed, but it's
It's open.
open, so it's, even though the ends are kind of, it's like a blind end, so it's not a complete circuit. And that may be the same thing that you're saying, but, so it's in the tissue, and then it's not, and then it goes to the heart, or it goes to the venous system first and then drains into the heart. So it's not connected to the heart in both ends, like or it's not a closed loop, it has one end that's open.
Oh, I get where you're saying, okay, it's opposite.
Do lymph vessels have valves?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
They do, so they're like veins in that they have valves, so you push, your muscles squish them, and when they squish it, it increases the pressure, so then there's a little bit of flow. So if there's a pressure gradient, there's flow, and that's why you wanna squeeze towards the heart instead of squeezing away for lymphatic flow.
What are other similarities? The valves, the fluid. Oh, I guess the fluid could be
They
different.
both
too.
transport.
Transportation.
One direction flow?
Yes.
Okay.
I wonder.
One direction.
It would be different than this.
Are there red blood cells in lymphatic fluid? Are there red blood cells in lymphatic fluid?
No.
No.
What are you doing after this?
Platelets?
In lymph?
No.
Why do lymph nodes get palpable? Like they're not all, you can't always feel them, right?
They swell up with
What makes them swell? What does that mean?
Bacteria, infections, pathogen, toxics, toxins.
I was gonna say toxic.
Is it because all the white blood cells
That's not
are
a word.
fighting and all of them are
The B cells and the T cells hang out there, and when a pathogen comes, they divide and divide and divide and divide. So instead of just having 10 cells, you might have 1,000,000 cells, and when you have more cells, what happens? It gets bigger, and that's why. Okay?
My phone's gonna run out pretty soon.